I'm titling this Inventor and Founder of What Takes Care of Your Bloody Mess.
Oh, I love that.
Gotta get people to stop scrolling. And I'm going to mute myself here in a sec once the feedback starts.
Do you want me to mute myself now?
And you're good. Mute myself here in a sec. There we go. All right, we are officially live. Welcome, everybody. As you know, my name is Amanda Kunkel. At least I hope you know, one, because you're on my page, but two, it is right there at the top of what we're doing today. And I'm here with a dear friend, colleague, and client, Lisa Gill. And as you have seen that I titled this, she is the inventor and founder of What Takes Care of Your Bloody Mess. That's a little tongue-in-cheek. Hey, Marianne, lovely to see you. Marianne's here with us today. That is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, it actually isn't. That being said, I'm going to hand this over to Lisa to let her more eloquently describe what I'm calling taking care of your bloody mess.
Amanda, you are hilarious. Thank you so much for that introduction. And it's absolutely true. Like my mission is to help take care of our bloody mess. And of course, we're talking about menstruation. And so when she said I'm the inventor and founder of something, this is a passion project that started a few years ago. And we're talking all about the tampons today. So that is how I got started. And what I've done is create something called Tossibles, which is just like it's possible with Tossibles, to bring a little style and some badassery to the actual disposal process, because there's a story there, but it turns out like when you are meant to be discarding your items, I always thought it was about the plastic wrapper or the applicators and things, thinking, it's not about these little cotton beauties, because these can be discarded just like toilet paper. They'll break up. And I was sadly mistaken. And there's a journey there that I started on. But when you start not to flush, if you've been a flusher, and I'll say I'm a self-admitted flusher because I didn't know. And then once I knew, that became the rabbit hole of, well, why? What could this possibly be doing that's bad? Or how it goes down, it's fine. The toilet flushes. Like, how is this affecting anybody or anything? And that was the beginning of this journey.
And the interesting thing is, well, I can tell stories, or other women, sure, I'll tell stories about, we're out shopping, we're at Michael's or something, right? And you have to go use the restroom and change, and like you get in there and there's like no little baggie in the thing to like drop it into, and you're going to use another tampon, and that teeny little plastic thing is not enough to wrap your used tampon in, right? And if you're like me with a very heavy cycle, your hands are now like covered in blood, literally. And you're like, okay, so I'm gonna have to use the trash can out there. And like you're looking at the toilet paper. I mean, literally, you're like, I just wanted to come shopping. And now you're dealing with this like bloody mess. And at least, the good news for the most part is, if you kind of gotta like MacGyver it and get out to the trash can, you can, but you were in a different type of position. Would you like to fill us in on that? Because I thought it was very unique perspective.
Yes. And so like you, my cycle was it was out of control. Like it was just something I dreaded every month. It got to the point where I'm like, well, I know I'm going to take at least one sick day this week, if not two, because it was just so hard to manage. But you still have life, right? Like you got to get out, do the things, go to work, do the errands, take care of your family. And it was just like, what the WTF? That's what that was. WTF. So I'm thinking, okay, we'll start with, as soon as I found out the detrimental effect it's having on our water systems and the debris that has to be like clawed out of there and hauled to landfills anyway, and how much like it's a whole nother story on how it hurts marine life and how it's like just causing this disaster within our water systems and plumbing. But anyway, so the point was, okay, all right, I'm sitting in this situation. I'm in the stores, I'm in the wherever, and in all the places, because it always shows up when you don't want it to. And it's like, there's got to be a better way to handle this. And then, like you said, like I have to show you, like I grabbed a couple of the baggies. Like these are some of the things you can get. Like this one's like a puppet, but it actually ripped just when I put my hand into it. And like this is just like, I can't even get the Apple bag open at the grocery store, let alone be sitting there
Right,
with
like, your
with like
feet
this.
yeah.
Yeah, with like this. And I need to change it out. And I got my bags, I got my purse, and I got all my stuff. And it was just frustrating. And so I thought, you know what, I got this. I work in an environment where it's not necessarily considered. We'll go with it's very patriarchal, and so the process of hygiene disposal is not on anyone's radar, but they sure are able to hang nasty signs that say, "Don't flush this, don't do that." So you're sitting there and you have your stuff, and you're like, "Where am I supposed to put this? Like the trash can is over there."
Yes, no matter
Like
where you put it.
right, like bank shot, no, I don't think so. And it's like, okay, well, I got this stuff. Okay, fine. I have extreme guilt if I flush. Baggies are pissing me off. You can still see through them. And I'm like, okay, let's try toilet paper, wrapping stuff. And in the meantime, I'm like, I just want to get back to my day. I don't want my hands to be a mess. And so that's why I was just like, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I made Tossibles. So that's like, it's like this simple envelope, like it's waterproof, tear-proof, biodegradable. And you just take it, you open it, and you just go boink. And it's got a little peel and seal strip, tear it off, flip it over, and you're done. So super easy. And that was just something like, I'm going to figure this out. And that was the end result after a lot of trial and error and getting some people's wish lists of like, because when you get your period horror stories and you just rack it up, you're like, oh, it's just me. I'm just complaining. I can make this work. And then you talk to other women about it and other people that menstruate, and they're just like, oh, this sucks for me too, and this sucks for my pads, or this sucks for this. And you're just like, I got to tell you, I just got angry for a while. Like I was, you can get hangry if you don't eat. I got angry over we need a mangry. I don't know. We need a word for like on your period, pangry.
Oh, I love that. Mangry.
Something of like the disposal part. It's like, this is just not right. Cause it's like this with all your stuff. And then like the trash cans over there, if there even is one, or you get it and it's like overflowing with stuff like in airports and things, you've got like the pad monsters are crawling out of the bin and things. It was just like gross.
Tossibles, like if there's literally no place to throw it, you can put it in your purse safely until you find a place to throw it. It's not going to get on your wallet.
Yes.
Like it's not gonna, because we've all had that one before. We're like, how much do I need to wrap around this to put in my purse until I can get to some place to.
It's so true. It was so true. I was visiting my in-laws down in Georgia over the holiday season, and that was like right like the fall of coming up with the prototypes for this. And I was like, what better to test than on yourself, And I ended up, no kidding, we ended up at a bar. There wasn't even a trash can in the bathroom, near the bathroom. Like you had to carry your stuff out into a packed bar, wall-to-wall people, music's playing, carry it out. And they had like the giant lawn and leaf size trash bag, like out in the main area by the bar. And I was just like, okay, I got this. Like I can do this. But I was really mad of like, what is everybody else doing? It was like college age kids and stuff in the night scene there. And I just thought, how many of them are dreading, how am I going to handle this tonight? This is my rage day, or this is my whatever day. I'm on a date. I'm out with my friends, we're at a bar, we're having fun. And just the stress of that is unnecessary. But we adapt, right? Like that's what we do. We're just don't even think about it. We're like, okay, what are our options? We're looking around. This is how I'm going to handle it. Or we're just like, screw them. They're not going to come up with some kind of proper setup, or having toilet paper and trash cans, and, even soap in the bathroom would be nice consistently. Then I'm just going to flush it and be damned what happens to their plumbing. Like and that's not the right answer, but it's
Right.
like it's an educational piece on both sides of
It
like,
is.
what should you be providing? And then how can we better handle our choices?
Mhm. Part of what I think is so interesting is how silly simple it is. And I say silly simple because how many years have there been menstrual products for on the go? And no one. No, I mean we have satellites that we can like, make instant phone calls across the earth, right? And I'm sure that's a whole nother can of worms over, who are inventors, right? And where the ideas for products come up. But that being said, one thing I'm really impressed with you, Lisa, and there are so many businesswomen watching this that I know have an idea for a physical product, right? Actually, there's one woman who I'm sure we'll be watching shortly that I know I'm going to get you two hooked up to have a little peer to peer. But the idea of, well, how do we get a patent? And how do I even go about like physically making something? And then where do I get the money? Because I'm gonna have to have money in advance, like, right? And then all of a sudden, it's just like overwhelming. Stop.
Yes. But I'm going to open with that of, I am living proof that if you are frustrated or pissed off, or you have some just moment where you think of something, you're like, this needs solved, you can solve it. You can. And you don't have to be this giant corporation or have all this money. All you need is just to think it out, and just think it out and be curious. This is your phrase all the time. Let's just be curious about this. And that's what I did. It was just like, I was upset about it for a few years, and I kept getting indicators of like a sign would get even more rude if I switched jobs somewhere else, and it kept building and building. And I was like, this is like, I am meant to do this. I have no idea how, no idea, no entrepreneurial background, no, business, inventing, engineering, any background whatsoever. But it was like the drive was there. And it was like, this could help so many people. It can't be just me, you know? And that's, we can talk about that more after a bit when we were working together. But it was just that you connect, like all of a sudden that fire gets lit and you're thinking, okay, you know what? I call it like, instead of my kung fu, my Google fu is strong. And so, right. So my Google fu is strong. And I'm like, what do I need to learn today? Yeah.
Trademark that name.
Yes. My Google fu. Because that's your mentor sometimes. Like, you don't even, in my environment, I don't even know anyone in product development. And so you just start of like, let's break it down into little pieces. Yes, I have an idea. Does something already exist like this? So you look out at what exists like this, buy one of everything, try one of everything, and see, okay, there's always a gap of like, if I'm still struggling, these are not solving the issue. There's still things going on. You're like, okay. And when you get to that place where you're like, okay, talk with your friends can be your focus group. Just invite a variety of people, backgrounds, whoever you know in your circle, get them together and say, look at this. When you're in this situation in the bathroom, this is happening. What's your wish list? You write down the wish list, and then you look at that versus all the things on the market that exist now, and you come up with how you're different. Step one, you're like, yes, that's viable. All right. Step two, I should probably register as an LLC. Okay, let's do that. Step two, did that. Google that. Like, I'm in Nebraska, so you just go through your Secretary of State. It was like $15 to reserve a name. Probably, this has been a few years now, probably like $150, $175, I think was your final claim. Something very simple. Did that.
In Pennsylvania. Yep.
Very simple. And then the next was, okay, start finding materials, start figuring out, like, because manufacturing is a whole different thing. And here's the key to manufacturing. Anything you come up with, think about how it could be made on equipment that already exists. That is right there. That is one of the biggest benefits there is if you can think of something and think of a way like, we're not reinventing giant machinery, and we're not doing custom dyes or whatever, like all these things that you need. How can you figure that out? And so I started calling like all over the world, all over the world. I was filling out like inquiry forms and languages I don't understand, just assuming that,
Did
well,
you
the
find
first
that in
line.
Google? Like, were you like
Yeah.
manufacturing for
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah? Okay.
Yes. Yes. I was
Okay.
Googling, like, I didn't even know what kind of material that I needed or I could create at the time, but I had the idea. And I was like the Michael strips, right? Running over there. I bought every kind of varnish and glue and wax and construction paper and paint. Like my living room looked like a
Your own
mad
little magic net.
scientist.
Like,
Yes, I was using hodgepodge and just things like you can make samples out of anything. But if you can, get to the point where like it's something you could say, okay, I know this is held together with tape and glue and whatever, but if you can send that to people and say, this is what we need to achieve. And these are some potential options, but I don't know how to make it work.
so it
And
doesn't have to
right,
be perfect to launch.
right. And that for me, like that's hard for me because as a perfectionist, I was like, oh no, it's got to be perfect. They're going to think I'm crazy. No, 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 no. Just a viable concept, a demonstratable little like prototype, and just having the passion to explain like, hey, this is a situation. Have you ever thought about this? And that got me a long ways because it would be like I was filling out inquiry forms. You get a few sentences of what you're trying to do. You give them your contact info, your LLC info, so it's not like you're writing from like your Gmail or Yahoo address or something, but you're writing and then you're just saying, I'm looking for a manufacturer of this that does this, this, and this. And then those, some of them will start to contact you. And in my case, most of them were like, I don't want anything to do with this. They didn't respond, got ghosted. I had one company in Germany that thought I was trying to make manufacturing cards, like a board game. I'm like, no, not there. But the language barrier was a little difficult to get around on that one. But it was still trying, you just try. And then I finally found a lady, just one state over, and she was like, I get this, and I want to help you. And that was all it took. And then we spent like it was about 6 months, maybe at least 6 months. Like this is a slow process, but yeah, we did it and we got there. And then a year later, then we got it up, and it was like we had the first batch ran, and we've been off to the races ever since.
And is it correct? It's like you got curious, but then you had to like stay curious and curious as you received these no's. And then you had to almost maybe be like, that's interesting. Next,
Yes.
keep moving along, where it may have felt and seemed like you were actually going backwards. You're like, how are what? Like, I don't, and yet it just took that one contact at that one time, and then everything skyrocketed forward.
Yes. And that was it. I got to say, the perseverance, you got to stick with it, because all the twists and turns and the rejection, and then but I'm still getting signs. Like you still get the signs, like you are not meant to stop. Like, and you can ask for it. Like, I need a sign. I'm in a dark place right now. Am I meant to keep going forward? Am I just, and that gut instinct and that intuition says, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. And then, then you see why, like something all of a sudden, then a new connection comes in, or a new partnership becomes available, or somebody passes your name along and somebody else was like, oh, where has this been?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
At what point did you start the patent process?
So it went through again, Google Foo, and you can go about it a different ways. You can seek patents either by the way it's made, what its function is, what it's made of, or you can register trademark your name like a brand. And all of those, actually, the USPTO.gov website has fantastic how-to videos. And so when you go through them, it's just, they have a database you can search. Like you can go look up anything you want, and it's all for free. You can go out and describe your item and get out on their site and think, so like for this case, I would do a search for like tampon disposal baggies or feminine hygiene disposal or, pouches. Like you just change the thing and it shows up every patent that exists and you can read the full thing. And, because you don't want to violate anybody else's stuff. So you have to that's part of the research phase. But then when you're reading them, I mean, and they're fairly vague descriptions. And some people patent like the shape. I think this particular one, which, I don't think I can show the actual name of it. I know that one has 5 alone just on that one. And so,
That's the thingy that really won't open because it's like a grocery store bag.
see, it's just a point that, they'll take your money for anything.
Right, right. You don't have to be this super highfalutin CEO with multiple millions of dollars to get a patent.
Right. And if you don't need a patent, perhaps you just trademark your brand name and you can go that route. And I don't think that was more than for the Tossibles name itself. You just pick a category. You're like, this is my name. Is it available? Database shows, yep, it's available. And then you pick a category and you file your paperwork, and then they come back in a few months and they say, okay, show us some samples that says you're using it. And then you show them some samples. And then a few months later, you just get your beautiful certificate in the mail that's like, you own this name in this category. Congratulations. And it's got the big, beautiful seals across the top and all the things.
I love it. And I know that there's somebody listening right now that has this question. Did you have to hire a lawyer or consult a lawyer any part of this journey?
Yes, I would consult a lawyer, find a local one. You can you can Google FOO, information, was that IP, information protection, intellectual property, that type of thing, more on the intellectual property side, but you could do intellectual property attorneys near me or IP attorneys near me or IP lawyers near me. And I was surprised there were several right here in town.
Okay.
And that's another one to get second opinions on, because the very first one I talked to, they wanted $100 just to make the appointment to talk. And so I went with them and they were going to talk about, it's going to be like $20,000 or whatever to do this. And then another one was like, how about we just kind of see what you're doing and then talk about it. And then I'll just kind of charge you based on what I think. And that one was just a fraction of the price for the advice, and a lot more local. And it's funny because you can start asking friends like, hey, who do you use your lawyers? Because IP lawyers also might do other things that people have had services with, and referrals. I love referrals. So, but it ended up being I didn't need to spend all that money up front just to talk with somebody. It was finding that groove of who works with you and understands what you're trying to do, and that you're not a huge company. Be like, I don't want to spend $100,000 and spend the next 3-5 years doing this. I don't want to do that. This is what I have. This is the situation. And this is where can we go, and that's what I would recommend, is just talk with a few people. If you have that option, if you're in a city that has, this area, this 1 million people in the surrounding metropolitan area, there were a few choices, and some people can consult with you online. But yes, definitely, I would talk with a lawyer. You can get your LLC set up. You don't need a lawyer for that.
Nope. Yeah.
But you do need one at some point if you start getting into where, if you're going to spend the money, talk with a lawyer first, because they know what they're doing. And if you don't file the paperwork right or do your drawings and things correctly, you may end up spending more money that's necessary. So that's what they're for. You can spend a few $100s for a consultation versus just companies that will just, happily charge you 20 grand, whether your stuff's going to get approved or not.
Right. Right. I love that. And then, so you get all this and you get the actual physical product, right? Did you have millions and millions and millions laying around to start manufacturing a whole shitload of this?
Oh, no. The early stages, I'm still it was still paycheck to paycheck, and you can do these things in progress. If you have an extra $100 or $200 out of a paycheck, be like, okay, what can I do with that? And then it was like that for a while because actually, I think that's about how the first 2 years went. Of
Okay.
yeah, the first 2 years were like that, and it wasn't until probably a year after was in full manufacturing and there for sale that that's when it started you can start like looking into like the seed money and other things. You can compete for those things early if you want to, but you don't have to. Like because that was one thing
Mm.
that you helped me remember too. Is like there is no deadline. You don't need to go get all these bank loans, rack up all this credit card debt, do all these things. It's just like that's the instant gratification that we see everywhere today of like, I invented it and I'm on a million shelves next week. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that.
And so there are, with seed money, there's several ways to go about pursuing. I think, did you say you worked with like a grant, someone that did grants, or am I making this up?
Yes, no, yes, I have. And you are not making it up. So that wasn't, yes, no. Or, um, you can do both at the same time. Like there's pre-seed money. They don't own like a piece of your company. They're just requesting in exchange for the funds that, if you ever do put out some capitalization for your company, they want permission to be first, or they're reserving their right to be first to buy in. And that's kind of what that is. So I had like even the local university, that was the first pre-seed money I had. They had a venture group that they do actual projects in the community to start to support local startups of like, because you find out on this journey that there are all kinds of people around you in hopefully that there's a community and an ecosystem for entrepreneurs that it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was here. Cause it's not on your radar till you start paying attention to those things. And then you start meeting people and some are like, hey, what about this fund or this fund, or you could apply for this. And then like you start building relationships and people share their resources. And then people who, use your product or they hear about it are like, oh, there's this grant, here's this grant or this grant. And then you all of a sudden have grant writers all of a sudden showing up in your social group because that's how it works.
You
And
didn't need any of those contacts before.
nothing. You
Those
just
all
nothing.
came as you took the next
Yes.
step and you followed the next little hunch and the intuitive little pinch.
Yes. It was all you have to do is show up, even when you don't think anyone's listening and that you're all by yourself, because entrepreneurial pursuits can be very lonely, like very lonely, and you're on your own island sometimes. But there are people around you that, just go join an event, sit on a panel, sit on like the public events are typically free. A college will host it, or there's a women's network or some other network or startup communities. Like there's a whole bunch of them out there. And you just, after time, you start attending a few of them and you're like, oh, this is connected to these folks over here. And this goes up here. And like the dominoes of all these connections start making like this whole, it almost looks like an atom of networks that is actually quite wonderful. And then those over time also start, people contact you instead. Like that's a flipping point when you're like, I feel all alone. And then all of a sudden you're getting emails within a couple of years of, hey, I just thought of this. This might be beneficial to you. And so it flips.
Or you run into someone at a coffee shop that you were like just trying to manifest.
Yes. And that kind of thing happened. It happened last year. And they're like, hey, I've been thinking of you. And now that you're here, I'm going to send this connection email today. Like, like the little synchronicities start to line up, and it's just keeping your headspace and your heart in a place to stay open and aware of the things around you, because they do start to show up. May not be exactly when you want it to, but because me, I get impatient, but they do start to show up, and then you're like, okay, yeah, that whole divine timing thing can be quite a test of patience.
And when you keep on going, right? You keep being curious, you keep being like, oh, well, that was interesting. Let me look over here instead. as you're talking, right, it sounds like there's the snowball effect, there's the snowball effect, there's the snowball effect. And part of it as well that goes hand in hand is you no longer are just like looking for help or looking for money, but you are purposely bringing in, you are purposely manifesting, you're purposely putting out that energetic blueprint of I'm ready for next. Here's what I want. And you have become this absolute rock star of like almost exactly what you vision board, right? It was like you would put like pictures on your vision board and then it would like literally
We
show
broke the vision board. We broke it. That's what we did. We were, because we've been working together for over a year now. And it was funny because I came when you're working on all your things on the side. And then at the same time, you're working on trusting your intuition and getting to work with it some more. There was one point, it was last fall, that we were sitting there and we were having a one-on-one and we realized, oh my goodness, I just finished my vision board. I'm like, it's complete. And I'm looking at it because I had to make a new one, but I'm still looking at it. And it was like, oh, and then some shifts occur sometimes along this road. What do we call that? Like, oh, I don't remember. We had a word for it plot twist. So
yeah.
there were some things that happened of like, okay, I'm focused. I'm going through my board. I'm in the zone. We're doing these things, and timelines be damned. They work out whenever they're going to, but it all of a sudden, like a whole bunch of things just started, like they showed up like, okay, here was this opportunity. This is what you asked for. Here's your opportunity. This is what you asked for. But then you have that moment where you're like, oh, I don't know if that's actually what I wanted.
It was aligned and perfect until it wasn't.
It was. And that's perfect. That's a perfect way to put it. It was all of a sudden when you think you want something. And again, that comes to being flexible. There's shifts, there's major shifts that happen. And, the other one was with my day career. And it was
Mm.
just like, oh, you know, and you're like, okay, I did it. But now the whole concept of how you look at your business, it evolved and it changed. And the things I wanted before, I don't want anymore. But they still presented themselves. And that's kind of also how you go down. It was like, and then you tweak it, you change it, you put up some new goals, and then we're like, okay, I think this is where we're going to go. But, you help teach me, like, don't have attachment to how it's going to show up. It's
How.
going to do it. Just roll with it. And
And,
so,
and sometimes it could look like the exact opposite is happening, right?
yes. Like right now I thought, okay, well, my goal this year is I would like to partner with some larger companies. And so some of those opportunities came about and those discussions came about, but the ones that have actually shown up more are smaller companies. They're like, okay, we don't need this big grand thing, but we do need this little thing. And it's a really important niche for us to follow. So how about we make something for that? And I was like, okay, get curious on a smaller scale. Sometimes that's easier just to make something new. Where it's like, okay, well, this is a small scale. We're talking hundreds, not thousands of orders. So we're like, okay, what do you need? What would serve you the best? And on a small scale, you can do that. And that wasn't what I originally pictured, but that's what's working out. So that's the path I'm following right now. And that actually feels really good. So I don't know where that'll go, but
Right.
it's
Well,
like
you'll keep us
I'm
posted.
I'm just going with it. I'm not trying to paddle upstream here. Like it's
Yeah.
just
No.
right. Right. So that has been the way that it's showing up this year, but it was still the intent of partnerships. What does that look like? How do we reach and service the most people possible that this could help? And then this is how it's showing up.
And so would you say that as you further went within, right, as you further listened to your intuition, you further developed your own intuitive skills, that it was the benefit then for your business? It wasn't like, oh, there's this fun thing that I do, and I have this fun little vision board, and I got to go to Hawaii and be like upgraded, but that it actually put the gas pedal on your business and your business moves.
Yes, absolutely. Because now by going through and moving through these new partnerships that we're in discussion with right now, all these little tiny things are starting to pop up. It's like all the little blades of grass are coming up. Instead of the giant tree, I've got like the little flower garden that is blooming around it instead. And that is the pace that is appropriate for me. It wasn't, I came to a place to realize it was like, oh, I am meant to grow with grace, not grow with chaos.
Mhm.
People dream of the big, oh, I just got my $1 million client or my, 6-figure client or whatever. Like my path, that is not my path at the moment. My path, these smaller relationships, and just starting to reach out and branch out where I can and, help small pods of people at a time.
And like you said, with this forward momentum, when you talked about you were hearing like no's or people were ghosting you, so you kept going, this can also be like that. So maybe in a couple years, it is the six-figure client that just drops in, right? Contacts you.
Right.
We
Right.
we never, right? We never know. We just keep going on that next step with knowing in your heart what you want the ultimate like being
Yes.
of service.
Yes. That heart validation that like your gut knows, your heart and your gut knows, like I am meant to do this. And then you see all these $1 billion IPOs coming up around you of companies that aren't even profitable yet. And people are just throwing money at them. And you're sitting here like, I'm doing this out of my living room and I'm scraping it together. I work on it when I can. I'm still trying to, doing the 9 to 5.
At least your living room has
But
AC. Right? The founder
right.
of Spanx, I think, was in a garage.
Well, yeah, she ran that. She's my hero. She ran that out of her house, and we have too up until this summer, and we finally, like, we're like 5 years in now,
That's
and
right.
we yes, we are in a commercial, community now officially, and it's in my dream location of like last year. That became when it shifted. I was like, I just feel like this needs to be elevated somehow, but I don't know how yet. And then
It's
here comes this new startup, new co-warehousing, co-office space, full entrepreneurial environment. And some of those people that I had met in the relationships prior are now connected with this group. And then they reach out like, you need to be here. Like, this is the perfect environment for you.
Mhm.
And they're just starting up and they're like, and we have like just the right space for what you're looking for. It's not like this giant warehouse thing. It's just
Right.
we could scale with you and help you get there. And that showed up it just showed up. And we're like, oh, we can do that now.
Is this the one that you were like, I'm gonna give it a month?
Yes.
Or, like, try it for a month. Ah.
Oh my gosh. That is where like the synchronicities start becoming like, the Rolling Stone gathers no moss. Like it was feeling stagnant a little bit for a while this spring, and then all of a sudden, boom, just like that. Okay, yeah, we'll try a month. But when I committed to that month, there was a full shift. And I
Mhm.
tell you what, I had goosebumps on my arms when we went and looked at the space. I was like, okay, for a month, do I even move anything in? Do I leave it empty? Do I feel good just saying I own this for a month? And it was like something shift. And it was like, we are going to make this work. I don't know how, but we're going to make it work. And then we found a way within that month to make it work. And now we're like signed on for the next year. So it's like that expansion. You give it space to happen. You don't necessarily know how it's going to work out, but you
Mhm.
trust that it will, and then it does. And that's the growing with grace part and not giving up.
And not giving up. And I love what you said there about like when you went in, you had goosebumps, then you signed the paperwork, and it was like, so one, you made the decision, right? That proverbial line in the sand that you hear business owners talk about, like, or mentors talk about, like you are like, no more, like line in the sand. But then by the fact that it was like, well, I could do it for the 30 days and try it, it was like saying to your mind, the one that was having the wonkiness, like, okay, we'll give it a go. We'll
We'll
see
give it a
how it
go.
goes. So there was
Like, you
no
give
fight.
yourself permission to receive that experience. Like, as we learned when, we went through, I was in your received group, and it was just, it felt right. And I still don't know how it's going to turn out, but it doesn't matter because I'm there now, and we'll see where this goes over the next year, because
Yeah.
now I have more space than when it was in my living room and my garage. And yeah.
And that being said, when we're done here, can you go into the comment section and type in how people can purchase Tossibles?
Yes, I will. Of course.
And I'm assuming it's a
Yeah,
website.
it's tossibles.com. But yes, I will put that in. I will absolutely put that in there.
And if anyone loops back around and has a question about your journey or a question about Tossibles, is it okay if they type in the comments,
Oh,
tag you? Okay, perfect. Because
yes,
I'm sure there's going to
absolutely.
be, Mary Ann has been with us, which
Oh,
is
Marianne,
awesome. We love
hello.
you, Mary Ann.
Yes.
And I'm sure that other people are going to have questions though, as well as they watch this. And I'm going to put this on my YouTube. I will also send you a video of it as well, so you can share anywhere. But I know because the lengthiness of the process of creating something seems, until you've done it, so big, there's probably a couple of women that are going to reach out and be like, can I ask you this question? Which just want to like say, yeah, totally cool. Okay, see, Lisa said it was
Yeah.
totally cool, so you don't need to be too shy about it.
Yeah. Yep. You can email me. It's Lisa Gill at tossibles.com, or you can just send me a DM on Facebook. My profile's public. You can send me a DM there. And I'm happy to chat with you, because it's just being patient. I think that's something that's a lost art right now, of like, oh my God, if I don't create this thing and just make $1 gazillion and everybody gets it right away. I'm telling you, when I first launched, it's like you turn the website on and nothing happens. And you're like, where is everybody? And then you're like, oh yeah, people don't actually know you exist. Right. That whole thing. And everything you do does not go viral necessarily, even if it takes years. And, so it's just expectation management of doing things without attachment to the outcome, and
Right.
not being attached to the timeline involved.
Yes, though a fun viral video might be. So you can follow Lisa and Tossibles here on Facebook. You can do so also on Instagram. And I found on her Instagram, was it a dunking of a tampon into a red wine glass, right?
Yes.
I think it would be beautiful when you do a little commercial to have somebody with some sort of fun accent be like, well, that's a bloody mess.
I love it. See, and you did this, like you have these little moments of just comic genius that come out every now and then. And,
It's the universe. It's the universe.
it is. But I have several from our interactions that I'm like, I'm going to get to that.
Notes. Yes, because it is so tongue in cheek, because it's like, it's kind of a weighty topic, kind of not a weighty topic, but could really be a weighty topic.
Well, it seems like there's so much shaming involved, of like, take care of your own business. Well, okay, then help me take care of my business, but help me take care of it in a way that's still cool, right? Like, it doesn't need to be this just cover it up, get rid of
Yes.
it. It was like, but I can still see it. I can still feel it. Like, just no.
Yes, and
No.
then the little kids with you, if you're a mom with the little kids and you're trying to hide it and they're like, Mom, what's that? So what brought this up? Here's another commercial that you can do. Or even just static post, when she was explaining to her daughter what menstruation was. I think her daughter is 6. Her daughter said something like, oh, so it's like a volcano that just squirts blood out of your butt. And she was like, well, actually kind of, kiddo.
Close.
Like,
It's close.
pretty accurate.
Yeah. And then there were people, I actually had some men too through this process. I remember one in particular, because I do some work with some of the local university students too, for projects and things. And I was sitting with this young man from India, and he had lost his sister in her 20s. I think she was early 20s. And he missed her deeply, because they were very, very close. And he knew of periods, but he didn't know much about it. And he was explaining that, in his culture, like, that's not something, it's very masculine, and it's not something that they talk about or necessarily even want to know about, like, because, the women, they handle it. They're not sure how, but they handle it. And it's just a taboo thing. And he said that so he and I ended up just sitting by ourselves in this cafeteria. Like, it was like at 9 o'clock at night at the school. And I'm explaining how Tossibles works, because he ended up being interested. He didn't get assigned on the project team that was working with me, but he wanted to talk about it. And he wanted to talk about his sister, because it was like, in that moment, she was coming back and we could have a conversation that was safe. and it would kind of explain how it works. And he was like, I miss having her around to have these conversations, because you can't have that with like his environment where he is. But it meant a lot to him to sit in a little cafeteria in the, like dark. It was already closed. It was late. And it was just to talk about like something that she went through and how she handled it. And that he was not aware of how that all worked. And we talked through it, but he was like, these are the conversations I used to be able to have with her. And so there are like men out there that that are compassionate to the experience. They know like we might need extra care during that time, and we might need extra sleep during that time, and we might need just extra, whatever your thing is, extra wine during that time, extra, whatever it is that you do during your monthly. And it's actually quite humbling. Like I'm not saying that like men shame it, but the process, the stigma around it needs readdressed. We need to reframe this as not one of, hey, don't clog up our pipes with all your stuff, to what can we give you to help this process be easier?
Yeah.
How do we handle this? Here are some tools, and that's where I wanted to make a premium tool, right? There's all kinds of price point options, but I wanted a premium one, because I was like, okay, I can settle with these, but it can be better and it can be beautiful. And that's kind of where it is. But there are people out there who are paying attention to that. I mean, it's not just, like we're on our own journey, but I think it's evolving. Like, I think we'll get there to where like the experience in the restroom is slowly starting to be paid attention to, specific to menstruation and things like that. And we just have to get over the blaming and the shaming and the,
Yes.
the assumptions that everything, you have toilet paper and soap, what else do you want? It's like, well, then that's saying that comes from people that have not experienced this. For the raging volcano reference
now. Bloody volcano out your bum bum. Is that enough for you?
Yeah, that's a different prescription, but
yeah, you tell me. I love
we'll go
that.
with that if you're a JJ or something.
Right. I love that with Tossible, there's like listening to you really describe it, right? And we've talked about it throughout the years, which has been like, there's the practical side, right? There's the funny ads that come through from the universe and like, try this will hook people, this will get them to stop scrolling.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff coming, just saying. Yep.
Yeah, tag me. Tag me in the comments. But there's also this, and taking care of the environment and taking care of the person, and actually like having heart and caring for reproductive health, right? When we look at the whole of this. And so, it's very interesting. I know you work in a very masculine, your day job, right? That you refer to is a very masculine environment. And yet you lean in so much with your intuition, so much with your heart, which is really what, at least I'm getting goosebumps everywhere, like at least for me, sets this apart from not only other products, but you being able to model this to younger business or want to be business owners, inventors that just feel so overwhelmed and are like,
Yes.
I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. It's too complicated.
Yes. And that's where you just rephrase that whole mentality. It's not, I'm not smart enough. You flip it around to, what do I need to learn today? What do I need to learn today? And it gets overwhelming, but if you just break it down, you don't need to know everything at once. This is a total discovery process as you go. Just, what do I need to learn today? And then Google foo your way to, I'm going to figure that out. Or I'm sure there's YouTube videos on almost everything now. And, like the US Patent Office, you can just go explore. You don't have to have an account or have a plan. You don't even need a plan. You can just go out on their site and search through some of their patent databases and their reserve your name databases. And, it's out there to explore, and it doesn't cost you anything to explore. And it doesn't cost you anything to join some local networking communities. And there's, if you, I mean, even Facebook communities.
Yep.
I mean, there is something for everybody out there that does not cost money. And again, go to your local craft store and you can start crafting stuff out of tape and gluing things together. And, you know, because I'm working on other things too. And it's still, it's a full on gamut of just like, it don't need to be perfect. It just needs to be demonstratable of what can you make. And it don't matter what it looks like. If it's a mess, but it works properly, you can figure the rest out.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate
thank
you
you.
coming and being here with us today. And you've heard Lisa and I talk about Received. You heard her talk about the program that she was in with the universe and we have a similar type environment, leader to leader, just as Lisa and I showed up today, leader to leader, right? Environment on Thursday called The Guided, where you get to hear these step-by-steps that we talked about with the universe, right? And you got to hear how Lisa has got some of that from the universe over the last year, and then also leaned in with herself with the universe, tuned into her own intuition. And that's something that is actively taught and even passively taught in every environment that I bring clients into. So if you're interested in that and how it can catapult your business forward, you know, putting that foot on the gas pedal, just send me a PM that says guided and we can lean in a little bit with some details, see if it's right for you. If not, all good. I'm glad that you are here and that you're being inspired. Lisa said you can reach out to her. Her deets and Tossibles deets will be put in the comments below. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. We're sending you so much love, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.